my name is Christine Reimer. I lead product marketing at SurveyMonkey, but my journey through tech has been through my first decade, honestly, was business systems. So data warehousing, data management, billing systems, the bowels of tech organizations. I then moved into more customer success role, leading professional services solution architects, and then joined SurveyMonkey, first to lead product operations, or BI team, and now product marketing and customer advocacy. I share that because while I've been in a number of functions, what they all had in common is how do you align cross-functional teams to deliver great customer experiences? And what we see at SurveyMonkey, and we're gonna spend some time talking about it, and I've certainly seen in my way too long of career in tech, is feedback's a key portion of that. And when we talk about, I hear the word effortless and it's mixed. One part of me is like, of course, we all want to create effortless experiences, yet there's nothing effortless about accomplishing that. It is a lot of influence. It's a lot of nitty-gritty, dirty work that goes on underneath. So I want to open with a story and see if this resonates with anyone. So it's about 2010. I'm at Intuit. I'm in their digital banking, which is one of their B2B divisions. At this point, we have a customer feedback program up and running. So we're using Net Promoter. How many folks use Net Promoter as the way they're measuring customer feedback? CSAT? Mixed? Oh, I like the kind of CSAT-y, maybe 1 through 3. I do both, okay. So we are using Net Promoter as our customer feedback program. We're up and running, and we are, I'm on the leading a portion of customer success and running the voice customer team. And so we have the program, we have the insights, we schedule the big presentation with the executive team to share them those insights. If this sounds familiar, we've dropped the survey, we've gathered the feedback, we've got the insights, we get into the meeting, and it goes really, really well, right? Lots of nods. We nailed it, right? Top drivers, action plans, recommendations, and we walk out of the room and we're like, nailed that, right? And then a week passes, and then 2 weeks passes, and the roadmap didn't really change. There's really no budget shifting. And we're like, kind of no more resources. And then a month passed, and then all of a sudden we're talking about are you guys gonna do that next drop, whatever that was, quarterly or every 6 months? Has anyone had the experience of gathering feedback from your customers, having the insights, and just not mobilizing your organization to make decisions and take action? All right, I'm getting between anyone not raising their hand, I'm getting nods. Yeah, that is what we see. So many organizations have the best of intentions, and I don't doubt their intentions, and we get those insights, but actually driving action and decision and shifting budget and shifting resources and shifting priorities and actually having impact to your roadmap can be really, really, it can be frustrating, it can be hard, and it doesn't deliver the customer experience that we know we all are capable of delivering. So I want to talk a bit about what we see at SurveyMonkey. It's a 20-year-old company that's been helping folks gather customer feedback to get insights, to drive action, what some of the customers that we see are most effective, what kind of things they're doing to do that. And hopefully there'll be some great takeaways for you guys. All right, but first, heard of SurveyMonkey, usually taken a SurveyMonkey survey, created one? Oh, good, oh, fun. Okay, so been around 20 years, incredible scale, 17 million active users. We manage 2.4 million survey respondents a day, so incredible scale. I was actually just slacking with my customer support leader since I don't run that function, but I wanted to be able to share with you guys. We have invested, just tying back to Anand's presentation, our help center, we actually have a 96% deflection rate. So those who come to us to ask questions, how do I? We've really got an amazing team up in Portland that builds out our help center. And even those who enter that contact flow, 40 to 55%, depending on feature releases and the week, depending what's going on. Once entering the flow, we're still able to deliver them the answer before they reach our contact. Our support team is, just for context, of these 17 million active 650,000 paid. We have 85 agents. We are all in-house. We have 60 in Portland, 20 in Dublin that support all of our languages, 156 languages, and 5 in Sydney to enable 24/7 support. So scope of business, but it was about 3 years ago that for the first time we decided to ask all those people, what are you doing on our platform and how can we deliver more value? And I share this just because we hear all the time, I know SurveyMonkey, I love SurveyMonkey, you're kind of easy to use, you're a self-service tool, and we are and we have been. But 3 years ago, we realized that we could deliver a lot more value to folks, so we invested in 3 areas. One is we began to invest in an enterprise-grade solution for our SurveyMonkey platform. So what does that mean? You know, administration features. We are in 98% of Fortune 500 companies, but yet they were all individual self-service accounts owned by the individual, not the company, right? So how do we have administration, ability to administer? How do we make sure we have HIPAA compliance? How do we make sure we have collaboration tools? The second thing we did, and I'm gonna spend some time talking about the importance of integration and moving data. We made a business decision 3 years ago. So many folks want to control the data and hold the data and keep that data isolated, but yet that's not, I mean, the environment we're moving in increasingly, you need to be able to move data into people's existing workflows, into the system of record. You need to be able to marry data with additional data sets. So we made a conscious decision to open up our API. We made a conscious decision to invest and build out integrations to 100+ business systems so that, and we'll touch a bit on when it comes to driving action, the importance of leveraging integration, because when you're gathering your customer feedback and it's over here isolated or it's waiting for the PowerPoint presentation versus being able to flow it into Salesforce, into your existing workflow, into Tableau to marry it with additional data sets. That was the second area of investment. And then the third area is we realized a number of our customers were using our all-purpose solution, SurveyMonkey platform, but for the most common use cases, we began to build out point solutions. So, you know, CX is a net promoter, an end-to-end net promoter solution. We've got Usabilla enables you to gather feedback from throughout your website, et cetera. So we've got point solutions. Happy to talk more after. This is not a SurveyMonkey pitch. Just wanted to give you some context as we talk about how folks are using SurveyMonkey to gather that feedback. All right. So touched on that on the previous slide, the importance of integrations. So when it comes to, so the topic was how can you be your customer's hero by actually driving action? The story I told at the beginning is where we were, I'd say 5 years ago and before, which is when you were trying to drive action, it meant that usually it was fairly manual, you got those insights, you waited for a slot to be able to tell your leadership team, you socialized, you waited for the annual resourcing to try to get some resourcing and funding to drive action. And there's still a place for that, right? There's still those times where you want to synthesize those key insights. But what we find happening more and more is the importance of gathering that feedback and operationalizing it and flowing into your existing systems to democratize more people being able to take action. So some examples of that. And again, I'm trying to tie heavily on the support, because in the support world, it's a little more transactional. And so do you want to be flowing all those transactional individual data points, where that system of record? But what we do see folks doing is things like their customer feedback, flowing that into, if Salesforce is, say, a system of record, how are those, are you prompting your feedback to be automated in terms of the send? And then how is that feedback tying back to that record so that if you're in the B2B, say, for example, if you're in the B2B world, you're able to see that feedback relative to everything else about that customer. For example, if you flow into, does anyone use, how many folks are a Salesforce shop? Okay. How many folks are Gainsight? No, less so. So kind of more on the B2B side. So whether you're integrating that into a health scorecard. But the importance of thinking about how you are gathering feedback and how you're empowering more folks in your organization to be able to take action by integrating it in the workflow. There we go. So, Maggie, the front row, or third row anyways, about 2 months ago, we were continuing to have conversations with folks in the CX world who were telling us similar stories to what I shared, which is my company's intention is there, but we're having a really, really hard time driving action. We were going to use, we have an audience panel which lets us do market research. We're going to use that, but we couldn't reach the right folks. So instead we mined our database and we actually reached out to customer success, those with customer experience in their title, those marketers that said driving customer experience is a key part of my job, and we asked them. And this was the statistic. We just released the report last week, and I actually want to ask you guys a few questions to see how you answer relative. But what we heard was 44% of professionals are saying that sharing the customer data and the insights and the stories is their top challenge. They have them, so they're gathering the feedback, but figuring out how to socialize so you can take action is where folks are getting stuck. Who here struggles with socializing, sharing, getting those insights in front of the right folks? Okay, all right, interesting. A little lower, but it could be, a little lower than average. Let me ask you, how many of you, so in terms of reasons for having a hard time struggling, how many folks struggle by not having a centralized source of truth for their customer experience data? Anyone struggle with no centralized source of truth? I'm super curious of all of you guys who didn't raise your hand who have a centralized, amazing single source of truth of your customer across marketing, product, operations, and support. You guys are doing amazing work. Some of us live in a world where it is not perfect. All right, how many of you guys have difficulty in getting budget or headcount to support CX initiatives? Okay, and again, those not raising, I have some ideas if you guys have spare budget, I would love to borrow. So that is, when we ask folks, 43% saying no centralized source of truth is the biggest reason they're having trouble sharing. 40% said they have difficulty in getting budget or headcount to support CX initiatives. And is anyone out there struggle with clear metrics or clearly defined metrics or measurements? I would expect, somewhat. I would expect this group to be a little more clear. I'm going to share with you guys, if you're interested, I can email you after. This is a report we just released end of last week, so you guys are the first to see. We haven't done anything to promote it, which is how to drive a culture of customer centricity and some data points that may or may not help you influence within your organization of where others like you are struggling and may be able to help you influence internally. So we will email you afterwards, but just wanted to kind of gauge where you were at relative. So the second thing we're seeing in terms of folks driving action with feedback, so gathering feedback and being able to drive action, is the importance of marrying your feedback data with additional data sets. So, the story that stands out most in my mind was this same organization where we were having trouble driving action. This division was sold by Intuit, private equity for a hot second, bought by NCR, a massive organization, didn't understand SaaS organizations, and basically was like, why do you need this customer success group? Why do you need to keep these subscription-based customers happy? And so we had a board level presentation where we were trying to educate our new leadership team on the importance of delivering a great customer experience, the importance of investing in the customer experience. And what we did for the first time, and this was back in the 10 years ago, so it was very, very manual, which is we took that feedback data and we married it with our churn data, and we were able to walk in the room and say, hey, 10 percentage points of reducing churn by 10 percentage points is worth X millions of dollars. And by the way, you can look at Net Promoter as a leading indicator of churn. And if we can start to address these drivers, We can reduce churn, which is worth X millions of dollars. Suddenly, the CFO was like, I'm sorry, are you telling me, because I got my new sales team over here, which is often, I find, where we compete. We want to invest in the customer experience, but there's these deals and there's new sales and acquiring and top of the funnel, and I got to give the money to marketing to bring more folks in. And you're like, if we can stop the leaky bucket, if we can move our unhappy customers to passive, if I can move my passive customers to delighted customers who are our promoters, who become our advocates, that is the best fuel for growth. But often when you hear that word growth, folks think growth is what the new sales team is doing, right? Growth is what the marketing, the paid marketing, the SEO is the top of the funnel. So for the first time back 10 years ago, when we married this feedback data with our financial data and had the CFO saying, I'm sorry, you telling me this is worth that X millions of dollars? Now, it was no longer the chief customer officer or the head of success coming in saying, hey, exec team, it's time for a net promoter update. The CFO is like, I want to track our net promoter because that is a leading indicator of my churn rate 6 to 12 months out. So what we see more and more of our customers doing is marrying feedback data with their operational, behavioral, and financial data. So depending on your organization and your systems, it might be really easy. We find folks, so what folks are using the SurveyMonkey integration is to flow into, say, IBM Watson or Tableau, so they can marry it with their usage data. So how does your feedback data marry up to what people are doing on the site, right? Or marrying up to their financial data. So depending on who you're trying to influence, by marrying that data, what we find is you get a different appetite for that feedback and the ability to drive action. So certainly in our product organization, the more we're marrying feedback data with what people are doing in the product gets their attention, and suddenly you have a more strategic seat at the table in terms of roadmap. Certainly, I'd say when it comes to resourcing and budget, I found for CFOs and the financial leaders, the more you can tie that feedback data as a leading indicator of churn, or your retention, the more, again, I've found where the win comes is when your CFO is the one asking for your net promoter or your customer satisfaction data. Does it make sense? And then the final thing that we see folks doing is, again, it doesn't mean you can get away from those heavier, higher touch, whether you go through annual planning or however your organization runs, where you're gathering that feedback and doing those more formal presentations. But when it comes to taking action on your customers, one of the things I think I struggle with, and I see others do, is really driving a culture of customer centricity in your organization. So it's not, who pays attention and listens to customers? Oh, that's for our support team. That's for our success team. Instead of, no, it's engineering's responsibility to listen to customers. It's product's responsibility to listen to customers. Finance should listen to customers. HR needs to. A culture of customer centricity and having that mindset. So many organizations have the value on the wall, but when it comes to operationalizing a culture of customer centricity, it's still kind of those people who deal with customers all day long, while everybody else kind of is a step back. So one of the things we see more and more organizations, and we're certainly doing at SurveyMonkey, is what are the low touch, when it comes to Effortless, low touch ways to operationalize a culture of customer centricity. So here's an example, and I'm gonna tell this story with a true confession that I absolutely disagreed with my president when he suggested this, and I was wrong. So I'll just admit that there. This was not my idea. I actually tried to block it, and the way he got around me was he announced it at the all hands so that I learned one of my OKRs there. It was a little clever, but anyways, he was right. Here was his pitch. He said, I want to drive a mindset that everybody talks to customers. I'm like, of course, absolutely. I was at the time leading our voice of customer team that's now evolved into our customer advocacy team. And he said, so what I want to do is just a really light way when anyone in the organizations outside of initially support and success talks to a customer, they just submit a little survey, and then we can have a lightweight way people can see those results. And I was like, stop there. I don't like that idea. And the reason I don't like that idea is because I don't want to gather any feedback without having a guaranteed plan to take action. So I wanted the end-to-end full system, right? If you guys are out talking to customers and you get an insight, I want to make sure we can operationalize the action plan. And so we fundamentally didn't agree, but the program rolled out with a lightweight of, let's just start with the mindset. I'll tell you what happened. Because we rolled it out in a way where it started with the executives, so what we decided to do is on our intranet, we had a survey that basically, you talk to a customer, were there any surprises? Are there any next steps? But it's more like, what did you learn? What were those insights? And that survey we flowed in, we used our integration with Slack and flowed it into a Slack channel. So it was a customer interaction report, we call them cheers, flows into a Slack channel. So what we started with, it was executives that were first filing and executives watching the channel. And what happened is suddenly this channel became a place for dialogue. Oh, did you know this? Did you know this about our Wufoo product? Or this is going on in CX? And it started to spread. In year one, we had 150 customer interaction reports filed. Good, except there were 1,000 employees. And what we found was it was a small group of folks who were submitting multiple. This year's OKR, or goal at the beginning of the year, is that every single employee at SurveyMonkey, our goal is every single employee talks to a customer, again, low bar. My team knows it's at least 2 a quarter, and even that's a ridiculous low bar. But nonetheless, you start with every employee in your company needs to talk to a customer, file a customer interaction report. The way we've operationalized it to be fun is that the all hands, the best 2 customer interaction reports filed, those people get to get up and share their story and what they learned. And then they get submitted to a sweepstake at the end of the year, so those top winners. And the winner of the sweepstakes gets to visit any SurveyMonkey office in the world and spend a week working there. So Sydney, Amsterdam, Dublin, Ottawa, Portland, or San Mateo, depending on where they are. So suddenly, a year and a half later, the program, it's not about an action plan. It's not about product using this channel to drive action. It's about a mindset that someone in finance or someone in HR is saying, I talked to a friend of mine that uses SurveyMonkey to gather feedback, and here's what I learned. It's about driving a mindset. Another quick example, again, flowing through Slack, is we have the ability to gather feedback, as you all do, I'm sure, the ability to gather feedback through your website. And we had invested a lot in our analyze functionality. So word cloud, crosstabs, sentiment analysis. And so the engineering organization was this group of engineers really, really heavily invested. And the old school model, if an engineer wanted to understand what are customers saying, what are they doing on their website, what would that look like? Well, the engineer might ping the product manager, who might ping, I don't know if you have a voice customer, or maybe they ping the customer support leader, and that support leader then looks and says, what are we getting through those channels? It's multiple steps. Or maybe you have a survey, but it's over here, and the engineer can't remember how to log in, how to find it, how to look it up. So based on the customer interaction report model, the Analyze engineering team basically had their feedback survey flow into a Slack channel that was Analyze feedback, and they are now reading real time. So they're releasing functionality and reading real time what our customers are doing. It doesn't take away the importance of talking to those people who contact the support channel, but they have direct access. And what I loved was they then shifted their meetings, that the way they kicked off their Scrum meetings was they would actually take a look at what was going on in that Slack channel to see what the feedback was. So again, these are small, low touch. I'm not in the middle of this. I'm not doing any work in between. But how do you connect that feedback directly to operationalize that culture of customer centricity in low touch ways? So those are some of the things that we're seeing folks do to I mean, we called this topic "Be Your Customer's Hero" because so often, the company's intention is great, your intentions are great, but the ability to drive action can be so cumbersome. We certainly see those who are driving the most action, that they're leveraging integrations, that if they can connect your customer feedback to additional data sets, same thing, using integrations or whatever works for you, but to be able to get better insights. And then where are there opportunities? You know, like I said, I resisted because I wanted it to be an end-to-end program where action was guaranteed. But that mindset is fun. You can literally see a fundamental shift at SurveyMonkey from a year and a half ago when we started this program, because it's no longer, you know, Dan Hennig runs support, Jeff Coleman runs success. If someone wanted to understand or think about talking to a customer, it was, you know, those two folks, right? And the, whatever, 85, 45, and those 150 people that work for them, rather than everyone at SurveyMonkey is responsible for understanding and talking to customers. So that we've seen a really positive impact, and we see other customers. Box, we work a lot with, is looking at doing the same kind of thing. So that's what I got. We got a couple minutes left, and welcome questions, thoughts, feedback. I want to hear from the people with perfect data systems who have all the budget they need. And I'm supposed to throw this? That's amazing. It's going to end badly. All right, yeah. Oh, I'm supposed to throw that. See, I already screwed up. Can I throw it to you? I've got like, I learned 30 days ago, I got 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 herniated discs. Because if you're gonna jack your back, I mean, don't do 1, do like all 3 and go all in. So I'm gonna watch my big throwing. Yeah.
So you guys have a new ad campaign that was done recently?
Yes, oh, you saw it. Here? Did you see it, the bus wrapped?
Yeah, so who are you aiming at? Who's your ideal customer in an organization?
Ah, great question. That campaign, when we think of gathering feedback where businesses are gathering feedback, it's 3 primary stakeholders: gather feedback from your customers, gather feedback from your employees, gather feedback from the market. The market is more, we certainly have a high percentage of marketers who are heavy SurveyMonkey users to gather market feedback and customer feedback. We do have HR, but it's also individual managers are using SurveyMonkey to gather feedback. And then from customer, folks like yourself, CX, customer success, those people in an organization gathering customer feedback. That particular campaign, we ran a multi-persona. So we did it at Times Square, we did London, we did United Terminal, the businessy one, the loungy one. And then we did San Francisco, and we did targeted to marketers, IT, because in IT, what we see happening is organizations have hundreds, if not thousands, of individual self-service accounts. So we're walking in the front door of organizations saying, you have thousands of individual self-service accounts. Do you want to be managing this data, able to collaborate? So IT, marketers, CX, HR, and market research. Yeah, but I'm glad you saw the campaign. That was fun. I was just in New York, and we did Times Square, and I was like the loser in Times Square waiting for it to rotate. And I was like, and then every time I'd turn around for a selfie, I'd be like, rotated through. Anyways, other questions? Is this helpful? Yeah? Relevant? All right, I'll take the clap. 9 seconds to go. Got 9 seconds back. Thanks, guys.